Headlines on Nigerian dailies this morning, and with us to review the main issue of the day, the indefinite strike action, federal government NLC, a showdown or another hoax, is the secretary of the Joint Action Front, a labor affiliate, and the public affairs analyst, Comrade Abiodun Aremu. Welcome to the program, and lovely to see you again.
It's a pleasure being here today.
To the papers, and the first page first is the Punch, leading with the headline, Dangote refinery imports crude as NNPCL swaps oil for loans. Tinubu's victory, Atiku Obi file 86 ground across most of the newspapers this morning. And finally, from the Punch, we have United Nations General Assembly, Tinubu, Biden condemns coup, insists on democracy. Our next newspaper is the Nigerian Tribune, with the writer Atiku Obi filed 86 grounds of appeal at Supreme Court, want apex courts to nullify Tinubu's victory at PEPC. Gunmen kill soldiers, policemen, others in Imo. Most Nigerian politicians are destiny destroyers, not helpers. Bishop protests rock 4 cities over Mohbad's death. Sanwo-Olu invites DSS to join probe. At the UNGA again, still on the Nigerian Tribune, we have the rider. Tinubu says governance failure, foreign exploitation, others overburden Africa. Our next paper that we'll be looking at is the Daily Trust, with the rider. Again, gunmen ambush security operatives, burn corpses in Imo. 8 soldiers, police, civil defense among victims. Police launch manhunt, panic grips residents. Government charges security agencies. Still on the Daily Trust, we have Atiku Obi challenged Tinubu's victory at Supreme Court, file 85 appeal grounds. Mohbad protest in Lagos, Ogun, Delta. Sanwo-Olu invites DSS. The Guardian newspaper comes with the headline, Tinubu seeks better deal to end extremism, Africa's exploitation. All eyes on judiciary, subtle harassment or political reawakening. We still have still on the Guardian, Atiku approaches Supreme Court to void PEPC's judgment on presidential poll. The Nation leads with the rider, Tinubu at UNGA. Nigeria welcomes true partnership. Atiku will be file 86 ground at Supreme Court. TUC, NLC differ on modalities for planned strike. The Daily Independent comes with the rider. Atiku asks Supreme Court to declare him president. Lists 35 grounds for nullification of PEPC judgment. Obi urges apex court to nullify Tinubu's victory. Strike threats, hardship faced by workers giving us sleepless nights. TUC. And finally, we have the Business Day that comes with the rider. Cardoso faces Naira inflation interest rate hurdles. Analysis, why Nigeria's solid mineral sector is crawling. These are the major headlines from the Nigerian dailies this morning. And we'll still have our guests in-house to discuss the big issue and the main issue. And that has to do with the indefinite strike action called by the, threatened by the NLC. And the topic, again, federal government, NLC, a showdown or another hoax. As a reminder, you can actually be part of this program by dropping your thoughts on all our social media handles. And you could as well call, and the number to call is on your screen as you see now. The number to call is 0704 9941 413. If you're calling from outside Nigeria, please just add the country code +234 while you watch us and listen to our guest. Comrade Abiodun, welcome again to the program.
It's a pleasure being here.
Can you outline the primary reasons why the Nigerian Labour Congress decision to propose an indefinite strike at this time?
I think the NLC make it clear. When it declared first a 2 days warning strike. A 2-day warning strike was to press up the point of why an indefinite strike become necessary. There have been demands by the NLC. And key to that demand is the criminal hike in the price of petroleum products and the imposition of a new regime of fuel prices. That's one. Secondly, the general rundown of the economy, and that has manifested at various levels. There are states that have even declared like a 3 days working week because the state could not afford, to compensate adequately in terms of the wage that are presently earned by the workers. There are other issues, but those two issues are fundamental, which the government choose to play a kind of an undermining role rather than listen to that. In the cost of the NLC demands and the protest, government aspirations. Because at all stake, what you try to do is to ambush, to cut short negotiations. Right from even the first impositions or the so-called withdrawal of subsidy. Because there was really no subsidy in the place. Officially today, the Nigerian government is defrauding the Nigerian people because fuel should still stand at 195 naira. That was the last increase. So whatever you are claiming in terms of we are saving anything from fuel cannot be acceptable and cannot even be trusted. Because from our own statistics, we are sure that Nigeria is ripping off the people. So demands of labors are there. And for us, particularly from JAF, we salute the NLC. Because they have no other things to do at this moment than to defend the interests of Nigerian people. That's because normally what the government will do, and that's why we are getting to that stage, always trust up injunctions. Or find a way to blackmail the NLC. So that's what they have always tried to do.
Now, comrade, let's look at some of the key demands of labor. And one of those key demands has to do with wage awards. Could you provide more details on what specific changes or improvements that the NLC is seeking in this regard, with regards to wage awards?
No, I think, the point is about renegotiating the minimum wage. You get it? A government can never be sincere on an award. It is better wage are negotiated on the prevailing cost of living. That's the standard. Because that was the victory that was won since 1942, when Michael Modu led Nigerian workers on the cost of living allowance. Because a cost of living allowance give you an average of what it takes a worker to live. That's the point about it. So it's not just from a point of a dash. You are not dashing your father's property. Nigeria is a common property. So workers deserve proper negotiations, diligent negotiations, in line of the prevailing cost of living. And when you look at the National Assembly, who have been dashed award, which eventually explains, the pilfering of the nation's resources. They didn't ask for it. They didn't need to ask for it. Because they're already enjoying jumbo allowances. And that was why it's easier now to dash less than 700 Nigerians those kinds of millions of allowances. And that's why we have a Senate president can afford the life of luxuries they're having. So the point is not about award. The point is about negotiating a new minimum living wage. The Constitution makes it clear. In terms of the objective of government, you get it, that there shall be a national minimum living wage. Those points are very clear. A national minimum living wage, that is a wage that makes a worker to live in a month. That's the point about minimum wage.
Now,
it's not just a dash.
Comrade, we all know that the review of the minimum wage has been a long-standing issue with the federal government and the NLC. What are the NLC's expectations for the outcome of this review, and how will it impact an average worker in Nigeria?
Yeah, you see, the point for the NLC is first to get to the negotiating table.
That's right.
Because it's not assuming. Because the inflationary rate today has taken away whatever you call the wage. How much is 30,000 naira? That's the living wage. That's the minimum wage. In dollar equivalent, how much was it? In 1981, at least under a civilian arrangement, you have a strike on the strength of the living wage, on the minimum wage then. And what was the conclusion of that strike? At least there was an agreement to 125 naira minimum wage. As at that time, a dollar in this country was 45 kobo. So that minimum wage of 1981 is stronger than what the worker has now. Because the 125 naira then translated into about $270. Because dollar and naira were not apart. Naira was stronger than the dollar. So what has happened over time is that you have a band of ruling class, that is those who rule the country, years after years, that have undermined the living conditions of the people, that have undermined the economy, ruined the economy, you see, and put the country in a state of backward movement, not forward movement. So that is exactly what is happening.
Now, some may argue that these demands by labor, if met, could strain government finances. How does the NLC propose to strike a balance between workers' benefit and the country's fiscal responsibility?
You see, the point to ask, what are the country finances? Let them even provide us a figure. Because they are looting most of the money.
That's right.
The question nobody is also asking, how come that elected officers have stolen Nigerian wealth, stacked away in foreign banks to the country? But they were the stolen money. So, and that is why Nigeria is not broke. That's the truth. They may be lying. From the last president to this president, you get it. They sustain themselves on falsehood. Because they are not disclosing the truth about the state of the Nigerian economy. Because how come they have all those resources? First, we have allocations, budgetary allocations on public investment. What becomes of them? Between the Obasanjo presidency and Jonathan presidency, over 23 trillion, 23 billion were appropriated, you see, for the power sectors. Obasanjo $16 billion. Jonathan over $7 billion. What do you have? Privatizations. Imposed privatizations. Not even negotiated privatizations. And again, the spirit and letters of the constitutions. You see, I stand to challenge any government, including the present government, that they are mainly there to loot the resources of the country. Nigeria is not broke. Let them declare their main assets. Whatever asset that they are claiming to, they are falsehood.
Now, NLC actually had a meeting with the federal government on Monday, and the meeting actually ended in a deadlock. Could you explain what's the current status of negotiations between NLC and the Nigerian government, and what obstacles have they?
Labour was always available to discuss the plight of the workers at the negotiation table. Government is never available. It's the fraud year in, year out. And it's not just about the NLC. Even the constituents of the NLC and other trade unions are victims of the fraud by the government, the insincerity by the government. And that's why it must be put straight back to them. The government at the executive level, at the legislative level, are insincere about the Nigerian state of economy because they are the principal looters of that economy. And that's why they will never come out. That's the fact about it. You see? Because where are those riches coming from? Stupendous riches of legislators, of the executives, at every level. Where are they coming from? From the looted Nigerian economy that is expected to be broke. Because you are not developing the capacity of the Nigerian economy. You are not adding values to it. So what they are simply doing, bring so-called foreign investors, foreign looters, to collaborate in that looting. How can a country build 4 refineries and the refineries are down? How can a leading crude exporting countries be the one now to start importing petroleum products? Ghana had not discovered crude when Nkrumah, visionary African leader, that is this kind of leader that we want, not all these rulers that you have across Africa now. And that is tragedy for Africa. None of them deserve to lead Africa to none of those people you are talking about. So it's sad, and that's why we must point it out. Nigerians must realize Nigeria is not broke. Nigeria has been suffered by those who have imposed themselves on us. And let me just explain it. You see, fella got it right. And that's what is happening. That's why when we have elections, what happens in elections? They manipulate the elections. You get it? So whether you vote or you don't vote, there have a way of writing results. And that's why we always have crisis. You get it? So the state of the country today, we are in a state in which as a people, we must fight our battle.
Now, at this point in time, what strategies and measures has the NLC and its affiliates actually taken in order to address the deadlock in talks with the government? And
I think the NLC will speak more of that. I can speak from a partnership level.
That's right. That's it. Let's see.
You see, for us as JAV, we are in solidarity with the NLC, and we don't have any excuse. First, as an historical responsibility and duty, we must side with the NLC. Secondly, it is necessary that we must be in solidarity with the NLC, we must be in action with NLC, because NLC, that institution, right from pre-independence, represents the heart and soul of the Nigerian people. It's not about the individual who occupy positions in the NLC. It's about our life and destiny, and we must defend it. So those who are there now are defending that. So when the NLC calls for an action, it's not about the NLC staff. It's not about the NLC workers. It's about the collective interest. And for Nigerians, And that's the mistake that people make. And they want to increase their salary. If you understand the operation of the economy, there's what you call multiplying effect. Multiplying effect. You see, whatever little increase you have in the wage of any worker has effect on markets throughout. You get it? Because it means once the earning capacity of a worker is increased, his purchasing power is equally increased. So that's what reflects. And that's why we have people suffer, because when workers' salaries are not increased, or appropriate measures are not worked out for the working people, they have less to spend. So when the ordinary market trader in Idumata, in Sokoto, Maiduguri, or Port Harcourt complain about poor sales, there will be poor sales because workers are not receiving appropriate wages for their labor input. And that's why you have poverty. You have the kind of underdevelopment that you have, because people are living really beyond the poverty level. Recently, but there was a meeting that was concluded, you see, of the G77 countries, in which the Cuban president addressed the United Nations about a few days ago about the outcome. And it was overwhelming in terms of the facts that are brought out, that even in the next 6 years, you are going to have close to 1 billion of people still living under poverty line.
Now, comrade, NLC labor leadership has been notorious in the past for announcing strike actions and then calling them off at the last moment. Is there a danger of this happening at this time?
We are never notorious. I stand to defend that. You see, circumstances inform every action declared by the NLC, whether now or before it. But you see, at any time a strike action had to be called, it's always a last resort. And you see, it's struggle. And that's one thing that must be understood. You see, part of the weaknesses the NLC may have, the contributing factor essentially had to do the state of environment that we have ourselves. NLC is on a struggle at several levels. NLC is struggling with Nigerian people to convince them the necessity of that struggle. That should never be. That should never be. Because NLC is carrying a responsibility. And that's why we say labor. Labor goes beyond the confines of a trade union.
But
so the NLC struggle, fight,
Nigerians
is a fight for Nigerians. Yeah.
Nigerians complain about the bureaucracy of the leadership of the trade union movement.
That's
with regards to the female leadership who have been reluctant to escalate, action. They have accepted. What are organizations like your organization, Action Front, and other labor affiliates doing to bring together a wide range of rank and file activists? We are talking in terms of workers, grassroots activists who can challenge union leaders and officials when they act against the interests of the workers.
Yeah, you see, that is what I'm saying. The NSC as an organization cannot act against the interests of Nigerian people, cannot act against the interests of the workers. The facts are simple. NLC operates as a union of workers. It's the workers that make up its leadership. So if you have any union that is guilty of that, it's the responsibility of those workers. They're not going to bring people from outside to handle that issue. So that's the essential point that must be understood on this matter. So, and that is why you have the structures of the NLC that must work. When meetings are called, are workers attending the meetings? Must you be compelled to attend meetings? This is part of what is happening now. There is no reason why Nigerians should not be on the street. Today, there is no reason why Nigerians all over should not be on the street. But you have to keep mobilizing people. You see, if you have got to a point whereby the people themselves are not taking independent actions, the people themselves are not developing themselves to have that consciousness, that awareness that this has to be done. And that's what has happened in other society. If the prices of bread is up, people can decide to boycott eating bread. Yeah. But here what happens? They say, okay, if you can't eat bread, you can take gari. You can take this. And you start pushing gari, push yam flour, push yam, you get it. You put them to the extreme that you can no longer afford. That's the point. So it's a general weaknesses of how we build our organizations. So whatever is the weakness of the NLC today is a general reflection of the general state of weaknesses. Let me simplify it for people to know. When we say change, when we are trying to make a change, we are trying to change the value system in a society. Once the society value system breaks down, that is what is happening. So when in JAV we talk about system change, that's the point we are saying. That we need to change this system of exploitation. That system where a group of people, few people, will cheat the rest in the society. Fella sang it very well. You get it? Fella dramatizes it, sing that reality, did everything to educate Nigerians on it. And that's why Nigerians need more Fella now. Listen to the lyrics of Fella. You may hate him, but that's the reality of that. That's the message. You get it? We don't need any message from any other where. Fella messages alone is sufficient to free Nigerians. You get it? Suffer for what? Enjoy forever. You get it, Uncle? You can't move anywhere, and that's the reality, whether those want to like it or not. You can keep glorifying all this irresponsible government. You get it? Because a government is supposed to be responsible to the people. You get it? So that's what you see. But when small things are done, and they call bands, they celebrate poverty. You get it? Because they have taken a little percentage of our money, claim to have constructed road, and everybody now roll out the drums for celebration. So that's the kind of thing that is happening. You see? And that is why you have it up to this present government. This government will not have lasted even 24 hours if we have built that culture of resistance at every moment. So that's what, so Nigeria must know that it is high time. You see, a problem you delay, keep growing. So that somebody can just come, impose the fuel thing. Obanjo came, imposed hike in fuel prices from 97 naira, because after the struggle against Jonathan administrations, what struggle are we doing again? And that's the challenge. From 97 naira to 141 naira. And they claim they will have removed total subsidy then. And at a point every month, up till almost 9 months, the vice president of the country there, Sibajo, on a monthly briefing was announcing what they claim they have saved from subsidies. Where are those subsidies that are saved? Now this government came now, took it further to impose this suffering. And that's why you see fella said it, suffering and smiling. And that's why I say no government in Nigeria will last a day if as Nigerians we are resolved. And it's sad. I mean, why some of us must drum it is that because the current generations
exactly
are meeting abnormality, illegality, illegitimacy, and several things. And they will think that's the way the society is. You see, and that is why what we are doing at all levels is to avoid anarchy. Because when a society goes to the state of anarchy, no more rationality, you have disasters. And if you take rational human being in those society to save that society, that's what Nigeria is to do today. So that's why a governor, the senators, House of Rep person, a councillor that is elected, a president, or whatever, keep thinking they can do anything against us.
Now,
So, but it must be clear, and that's why these current generations must never accept it.
you can still be part of this program, and the number to call is on your screen, and that's 0704 9941413. If you're calling from outside Nigeria, please add the country code +234 704 9941413. You can also drop your thoughts on our social media handles, as well as our Facebook. We have Paul Iregbenu, who stated, we have an unserious NLC in this country. What are your thoughts on that, Comrade Aremu?
Let me just say that, yeah, everybody can express what they feel. But my point is that, yes, if you feel the NLC is not serious, you have a responsibility to make it serious. You see, but the point which I've emphasized is this. For every Nigerian, you cannot leave our problems to others. So when we have organizations, if the organizations are not working, you don't wait to this time to raise those issues. That's the point. You see, I'm not saying NLC is 100%. I'm not defending the leadership, but I'm defending Nigerian Labour Congress.
Now,
as an organization of traditions from Imodu till now. And that body was set up, you get it, to defend the interests of the Nigerian workers and Nigerian people. So if we're all alive to our responsibilities, even on the field of actions, you will engage those NLC leadership. You get it? What I will not do, you see, that's the point. And that's why, you see, it's easier now to call. You get it? We'll be more interested in what are the weaknesses. Why is this organization not this way? Because whatever you do to undermine that, and that's what Nigeria must know, is encourage and empowering the responsible rulership that you have, occupying executive and legislative power positions. Because people should have asked at any time, or has there been any time when the National Assembly or House of Assembly have made any law willingly to say increase, let's negotiate the wage of workers? At any time have they taken any measures to cushion the effect of suffering of Nigerian people? There are no time. All those things were struggled for, including the attempt they are trying to use backdoor now to impose hike in tuition fee. The universities in Nigeria are tuition free by the struggle we wage, our elders wage since 1978. There is a difference between tuition fee and other fees being charged by the universities. The tuition fees, that primary school fees, no child should pay tuition in federal tertiary institutions. The same way no child is paying tuitions in federal government colleges that they call unity school throughout the country. The same way in all other federal institutions, whether school of survey, whether polytechnic, whether college of education, they are not. Because as it stands today, tuition fees has not been withdrawn. Like they are tuition fee paying as a policy. So the attempt by this government, and that's part of the joker. You know, students are protesting now.
yeah.
And JAF will support them. We encourage Labour to support them. And every Nigerians. Because they want to destroy our education. Having almost collapsed the economy. you can bring out 10 of them, super rich people in Nigeria, and trace their source of income. They looted Nigerians. The money that was spent for these elections was enough to have resolved the challenges raised by the Academic Staff Union of Nigeria. We keep subsidizing the power sector despite their privatized electricity. You get it? They have put more money in subsidizing those who are owning that properties because they didn't pay for them. They were dashed because they undervalued the investment. It's still on record. Sanusi brought out former central bank governor 620 billion. Banks are private institutions. To bail out banks, 620 billion from the central bank. They are not private money. Dangote refineries. What went into it? Billions, trillions. From where? Also from our economy. So and that's what they calculate when you say they have a country has a foreign debt. You start now understanding how come those foreign debts. It's not the ordinary Nigerian people that are owing that money. You see?
Let's get back to our callers. The number to call, you can be part of the program by dropping your thoughts on our social media handles. And you could as well call, and number to call is on your screen. That's 0704 9941413. We'll like to get your thoughts on the issue that we're discussing this morning. If you're calling from outside Nigeria, please add +234 704 9941413 while you watch us and listen to our guests. We still have our guest in the house, Secretary of the Joint Action Front and a Labour affiliate, Comrade Abiodun Aremu. Comrade Aremu, some Nigerians are asking, are there any specific examples or success stories from other countries or regions where the demands of labor were met successfully and that Nigeria could learn from?
Yeah, there are examples. And that depends on the level of struggle waged by those countries. If you have active labor or trade union movement, they hold it a duty to defend. And see, without even going far, and I do say it on several occasions, whatever thing an average Nigerian has enjoyed today is on the struggle of labor. Go and look it from the 40s to now. Even when we try to do all this criticism, we struggle for everything. You see? And that is why you have countries, whatever the system they have adopted, they could cater 100% for the needs and aspirations of their own people. But when you say it now, Nigeria may not have benefited. Cuba was in over 60 countries during COVID. Cuba, by all standards of rating, supposed to be a third world, supposed to be a developing, whatever they categorize it in international politics. But it could cater for a citizen. It could offer even scholarship to African students.
Comrade, let's quickly take this call. We have a caller online. Hello, what's your name and where you're calling from, sir?
Hello, good morning. This is Chris Idoko calling from UK.
All right, Mr. Chris, thank you for calling. What are your thoughts on the issue at stake?
All right, I didn't have... Okay, all right. Ordinarily, in every country, not just a country, in every institutions, in every organizations, there are always unions that will stand for the rights of the workers. And those unions are always there all over the world because there's always tendency of those that manage any corporation or any country to abuse the power, knowingly or unknowingly, as a watchdog by the unions they have. We'll have histories of embarking on strikes in Nigeria. And what are the things that comes to mind whenever this happens? Because there has been a change in system, which obviously is to the detriment of the people. Let's take a case of the fuel subsidy removal. Yes, we've all clamored for years that people are siphoning trillions of naira belonging to Nigerians in the name of subsidy. And we all agree that one day that will be removed, functional refineries in the country, then those costs sent outside the country to refine those petroleum products will no longer be spent and be used in the country. And by virtue of that, which adds to the price of the petrol, we can now purchase at low rate. But here we have subsidy removed, and the price went more than 300%. With the hope that that would die down, it never went down. So we had palliatives coming, and I believe all the Nigerian workers were happy that there were palliatives on the way.
Yeah.
And one would have expected that, how do you measure palliative? One, there is an inflation due to removal of subsidy, so which means the purchasing powers of the workers have actually gone quite poor that they can no longer cope. So what would have expected that, okay, there will be increment in salary to meet with inflation. One would have expected that the palliative will come in the sense that, okay, we would have a national program on transportation, meaning if you are to travel where you need to spend 10,000 naira, then the government is coming in to make it 5,000 naira. One would have expected that, okay, the banks we have in Nigeria, when it comes to the interest loan, if they are giving 30, 35%, 40% on certain loans, intervention of the federal government will now make it easy that you can now pay 20, 25%, which means if you cannot cope by your income, you can actually get a loan at a lesser cost rate. That never happened. All we saw was a cup of gari, a cup of rice being shared somewhere. Now, one of the things we need, I'm not absorbing trade union, the NLC here. I'm not saying that most of every time they get things right. But ordinarily, if we have governments who actually ascended to power by the mandates of the people, you will always be worried that if anything. Let me give an example in UK. There are, if you're a Sahara reporter, so you must be familiar with the strikes going on. Currently, as I speak to you today, consultants are on strike. Other health workers have been on strike. We've also been on strike as well. Why? Because inflation went up to 12%, and the salaries were remaining the same. So there has to be a discussion on how do you expect the workers to meet up with the inflation as a result of life after COVID. And the government has to come in. The dragging has been between 10% and 15% increase, and what government accepted to pay from 5% now up to 6.7%, and negotiations are still going on. Because if an average Nigerian worker cannot feed a family under the 30,000 naira minimum wage, the risk is that the children is at the risk of, and that is how insecurity starts. So if you don't care about what millions of Nigerians go through because of the hardship posed, and on the other hand, you're telling me you're fighting insecurity, you're fighting nothing, because you're creating more insecurity by being insensitive to the plight of the workers. I mean, you cannot tell me that the money is not there with the millions and billions we see going to the National Assembly. They are there. So it's all about we having a sensitive government that will listen to the plight of the people and come to a negotiation table with all sincerity. And lastly, that was my final point. And I'm making this, something is currently going on. And that was as a result of a whole 1 year strike by the Nigerian universities, federal universities, during the time of Buhari. That strike went down for a whole 1 year. After that strike ended, that agreement is still not kept. From last year, you can ask any any of your relations who is in federal universities, UNN and other investors, now they are paying 100,000 for school fees. The reason is because the institutions need to cope with the realities on ground, and they can no longer get that from the government. Now, the poor students, whom their only hope was federal university because they can't afford private and state universities, have to bear the cost of spending nothing less than 120,000, 130,000 just for school fees and accommodation. That's not fair. It's not. It's not how to run a country. And we are making the problem complex every day by not listening to the people, all these people to negotiating table, so that in every country, you need to remember that an average worker whose minimum wage is 30,000, which not even every state is paying, should have an average life in the country. That is where we have middle class, not where you have either the upper or the very low. So let them go to the negotiation table with the trade union and understand the fact that people can't cope with this current inflation, current high cost of fuel, current high cost of food, current high cost of school fees. It's as simple as that. And this is why we cry every day that we should have independent National Assembly, independent judiciary, independent security system that will not be dancing to the tune of the government, even when they are being reckless about their powers. Right.
Chris, thank you very much. We appreciate your insight and your perspective. Comrade Adam, you had Chris there. What are your responses?
No, I couldn't really because the mic was disconnected at that point.
Chris actually pointed out a lot of things with regards to the palliatives that the government actually proposed and the failure of that of the government's
which Chris
concerns.
was speaking?
Chris was speaking from UK, from
okay,
United Kingdom.
Okay.
So I mean, he virtually highlighted some of the other alternatives that the government could have put in place in terms of transportation and the failure of the government and with regards to the palliative. And we saw what's happening on the streets of Nigeria, where people scramble for cups of rice, and corns, and grapple for food. With the paltry palliative, which means absolutely nothing to Nigerians. I mean, these are quite a really
those
serious
things, let me even say, you see, it's insulting when we are reduced to palliatives. Because what it seems to do is akin to those who just want to do something show-it-in. Some show-it-in that we are doing something. We are talking first about the basics. Even from the provisions of the Constitution. Why do we swear in the President, the governors, and others? To uphold the spirit and letters of the Constitutions. And there's a section 16. In terms of what the responsibility of government is to the people.
Yeah.
If it was clear that the economy shall not be run in such way as to concentrate the wealth of the countries in few hands. And that's what has happened. So when you create such an environment, what do you expect? Workers are not appropriately paid for their work. In the same way, you see whether workers are at the private or at the public level. You see, in infrastructure, we want to talk about commitment of government. At least we have seen some commitment in the past. From the 70s up to some point at early 80s. Almost ended up around 79. Or early 80s. After the last civilian administration. You can see some empathy. Even in the first or the so-called Second Republic. You have governors that are concerned even about their state. Example was Mbakwe. They call him the crying governor because each time he went to the Federal Executive Council. He insists on the right of the Imo people and try to fight for that. What do you have here now? You have a legacy of irresponsible governors that will put on the roadside, this belongs to the federal government. You have federal government who not responsible for anything. So that's what is happening.
Now,
so we are not beggars for palliatives. We are insisting the right thing should be done. This country is in a comatose today. And that is why, for the young ones, it's painful. You see, and that's why the young ones have to learn fast now. This country cannot go on like this. Taken over by those who are looting resources of the country, pretending they are governor, they are president, they are just pretenders.
Now, comrade, let me quickly get your perspective on this. Considering the role of trade union leadership, how has it evolved under a capitalist regime, and what can Nigerians do if they want to support the next strike action?
No, we are still on the one that is coming up. So the next that is coming up, come up with your open critique. Let's address this issue together. But part of the critique is this, is not to stay in your house. If a strike is called, whether the NLC mobilize for it or not, you get it. It's a responsibility of every nation to mobilize even themselves for it. You see this spectator attitude that we're having, like the NLC and the federal government are playing a football match, and the citizen now step aside. Your stepping aside is on the side of reactions, because if a citizen we have stepped on the side of the NLC, if we have said even the NLC, this one, no, we are all going there together and enforce it. Nobody will be on street when there is a strike. If you're on the street, you're on mobilizing activities, you're on protest activities to drum up the essence of that protest. You see, but once a strike, even for 1 hour is declared, everybody now think people will suffer. You get it? Are you not even suffering now? So the point is, if we are not demonstrating that kind of seriousness, and anytime people feel NLC are not magic, NLC are not keeping workers as army or soldiers anywhere, the best they can do, the best of any NLC leadership can do, is to appropriately inform the people, mobilize the people, organize the people, you get it, into action. But we ourselves, just like it said, it is only the child that chooses to be carried that is carried. Leave disappointment with NLC alone. Let's do our bit. So if there is a strike, and NLC are in their offices, we should go to those offices and bring them out. Any strike are declared, workers now is sleeping at home as if to say an holiday. It doesn't work that way. NLC is just an organization to carry the messages, you get it, and to organize the workers into that. It's not NLC that will organize the millions. The millions must also be prepared to organize themselves. And that's the pain. You see, when they start carrying out some of these reforms, those reforms are to undermine our organizations. In the past, a call by the students at any level will have encouraged other students across the country. Exactly. There was a protest in Unilag. It took almost a week before Uni just joined. And others. Even then, you are not still having it on a mass scale. So that's the kind of thing that should happen.
So what has happened to
so it's not about parents now pleading with their children. Don't go out. If there is a protest, don't be there and go. Who should go out if not? We defy that against our parents in the past.
Comrade, let's take another call. We have another call online. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Please, could you state your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, my name is Comrade Benjamin Perawa. Yes, my thoughts and comments are very simple. What we're facing right now in the country, the hardship is faced by everybody. You can't imagine a country where a bag of rice is more than the minimum minimum wage. How are these people surviving? Now, the NLC, the TUC, they are the leadership of the labor movement. The people cannot go on the streets and do peaceful showdown or protest without the leadership giving a directive. The continuous meeting between these labor leaders and federal government is not proving any results. I mean, minimum wage is still where it is. What they are asking for is a raise. So it's time the leadership of the NLC and the TUC add more seriousness to it. Remember the other showdown that they did, it made the federal government to quickly stand up on their feet, you know, to give us a result. But we need a repeat of that. If not, we will keep going back and forth on this issue, and the Nigerian workers will suffer on it. A bag of rice, I repeat, as of today is 50,000 naira, which is more than the minimum wage. How will the poor man still survive? A rubber of rice is around 5,000 naira. The transport is on the high side. The people of Nigeria, the citizens, are ready for a peaceful showdown, because if the government can wake up one morning and everyone and give them vehicles, give them, in fact, take care of themselves, then how much more the workers that go to the office, that they do jobs, they do everything. What they are asking for is just little. And this is my contribution to it. The NLC, the TUC should stand up for Nigerian people. We're ready for a shutdown in this country. Very peaceful. We're not destroying buildings or anything, but just to let the government know what we are asking for. People, give us a raise so that we can meet up with our responsibilities as responsible citizens of this country. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. We appreciate your insightful perspective. Comrade, you had Benjamin there.
Benjamin made the point clear. NLC give direction.
Exactly.
And I can show you NLC will give the necessary direction. But for Nigerian people, let's declare our total support for the NLC. We loses nothing but the chains binding us from getting the basic minimum standard of living in our country. The basic minimum of life and happiness. That's what we get. And that's the appeal. You see, all this legal thing called bringing injunction will be nullified by the people's actions. Be made culpable to answer those charges they want to level against the NLC. People like us are prepared. Whether it's the president or governor will explain to me why I should not rebel against your irresponsibility. I will rebel. You get it? As a rational human being, there is no way this kind of exploitation must be allowed to endure. They can call it anything, whether mutiny, whether taking over that government. You take over an irresponsible government. I'm not apologetic about it. We have come a long way. You can't run a country this way. You get it? That's why I call them rulers. I never call, they are not leaders. We have had leaders. There are examples that even with the minimum, you can glorify them. Whether you are president. President of who? President of hungry people that you cannot provide for? You undermine the minimum wage? Or governor in a state? You are shortcutting workers? The ordinary people? You bring them together because you have built one small store and start dancing to your glory. That's the kind of thing that we're having. Rwanda is there as an example, without going outside Africa. They were in war, but they were fortunate. A leadership emerged that cared about the people. That's the point. And that's when you are measuring a government must be seen from the least human being in that society. Go and bring out the least human being in Nigeria today. The man from Sokoto, Mina, Borno, and everywhere. And ask them, what is their rating about Nigeria? What you are going to get will be amazing, because they are going to say exactly the challenges they are having to even live. That's the point. That's the only way you assess a government that is responsible and responsive to the people. Not all the newspapers things that are written just for those in power to feel that they are doing good. You are not doing any good. Let them hear that truth.
Our time is almost up, and I'd like to ask this final question. And what message does the NLC and the late Labour affiliates want to convey to Nigerian workers, the government, and the public about the importance of these demands and the potential impact of the proposed indefinite strike?
Yeah, the message is clear. And just from what the last intervention said, I hope and we will urge that NLC should demonstrate that seriousness that we mean business. For us in JAV, we're in total support of the NLC and on the NLC. If we have shortcomings, let's take a look at those shortcomings and make improvement. Because for every statement, for every criticism that seems to undermine the capacity of the NLC is undermining ourselves. And that's the point. So, and I'm sure the warning strike was part of that. It's for the NLC to learn. And I'm sure we have learned. You see, we have discovered we need to do more to mobilize Nigerians. Mobilization is more effective when it's not just left to the individual NLC officials. When we also see it as a major responsibility we all owe our society. And this society profits better when we struggle as members of that society to lift that society up.
Now, let me get your reaction from one of the comments we have on one of our social media handle, and that's from Richard. And he said that Labour has been mute with regards to the present government's legitimacy concerns. What's your reaction to that?
No, I didn't get that question right.
Labour has been mute with regards to the legitimacy issue of the present government.
I don't think that question will be for me, and there's a reason. I'm sure Labour can answer that question effectively. But what I want to say, because I know even at the level of our own organizations, is an issue we are seriously discussing. And we'll soon come out with a position, clearly. Because we cannot have illegitimacy. You get it? We operate in JAV on the basis of legitimacy, not illegitimacy. Because legal right is fraught with a lot of frauds. So that's why you can't say I can't protest. And that's why Labour itself, as a labour movement, we protest whether there is ban on strike or ban on anything. Whether there is court injunction or no court injunction. Because the questions of legitimacy or whether I have a right to protest that I'm hungry. You can't do that with a kid. A newborn baby, you get it, is born with that capacity to rebel. If you don't give that baby food, even when your visitors come and they're in your room and you try to muff the noise, you get it, the noise will come out because the child will cry. You get it. Labour must be seen as a child that want to cry this time. So, whatever legality, and that's why for laws, for those who are judges in society at times, you laugh. Because we have won some fundamental cases on the basis of legitimacy. Like when they destroyed Morocco. We won it on the basis of legitimacy. Of our right to live. And our right to have a roof on our head.
That'll be all for the program today, and thank you so much, Comrade Abiodun Aremo, the Secretary of the Joint Action Front, JAF. Thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure being with you.
And that's the much we can take on Sahara TV Breakfast Show this morning, and we hope to see you next week. Thank you so much.
This one,